So this is Kevin Rogers at Copy Chief. He's highlighted here asking if he indulges in that green stuff. Me, I do. I have been, and I've written hundreds of millions of dollars worth of copy on that green stuff. Not for him. I'm curious, is it for you? Does it help you or put you on the couch? Just curious, asking for a friend. All right, so over here we have a article content that I got off of my Facebook wall from Smarter Nutrition. You can see up here in their subdomain, does creatine make you gain weight? That's their hopeful SEO positioning. That's why it's written the way that this is. This is like, circa 2005 when you're trying to write for SEO, keyword density, things like that. So you're seeing creatine everywhere, creatine. Now, there's some good stuff in here, some good information. It's the organization and lack of specificity and who they're trying to get in to raise their hands. This is trying to be everything to everybody. Yeah, there's some call out. Let's see, after intense workouts, which maybe implies younger people, popular with bodybuilders, again, probably implying younger. So let's say younger men, but without really being for them, it's not really being for anybody. And when I did a Google search, I didn't see this show up. So this article is written to be SEO to get rank on Google to but it's not achieving its purpose. So it's kind of uh, ineffective this way. Again, some good information, but not really anything to anybody specific. So if I go over here to the GPT machine, how does creatine help build? Apparently, I can't spell muscle. And we get into energy production. They talked about that. Reduction of protein breakdown. That's great. Enhance muscle fiber growth. Okay, that's interesting. So leading to lots of different ways to lead to uh, more energy, reducing fatigue. So for athletes who are training, or for the weekend warrior trying to get that lean muscle mass, lose some of that weight. Now they're not gaining weight, they're gaining muscle mass. It does talk about that in the article, but again, without the specificity, it doesn't mean much. So let's say we're talking to a 50 pluser, a woman. Uh, by 50 years old, she's lost almost half her type 1 skin collagen. That's when the skin starts losing volume, starts drooping. Well, cell hydration. That's about cell volumization, the swelling of cells, and for the signaling of muscle growth. Now, one of the things that creates smoothness on the skin is smooth muscle underneath. So you know, when we're aging and we're losing the collagen, we're losing the smoothness, our skin barriers getting damaged. This helps plump that all up. So if I'm speaking to a older woman who is looking at a collagen supplement, I could put some collagen into this. Um, she's interested just because of the volume factor and gaining the muscle. And then we can add the collagen cofactors. Collagen's a big fiber, so it has to be micronized. So if we add that micronized collagen and we're getting the benefits of the creatine, oof, right there, that's powerful. And we want to make sure we're using the right kind of creatine. This is the cheapest and it's the most common. So we don't want to give the most common. We want exclusivity. We want the ability to be something that you can't go to GNC or Whole Foods to get, right? So let's just say get the hydrochloride, the HCI. And let's just say we also mix that with grass-fed whey. And I said here with creatine HCI, let's just say we add the the hydrolyzed, made smaller, uh, collagen particles with the grass-fed whey. Now we're getting even more enhanced muscle growth because of the muscle building blocks of amino acids. That's incredible. So that enhances to our older women, the 50 plussers, of the ability again to add more volume, more youthful definition by we're getting helping plump away wrinkles instead of diminish wrinkles with a a retinol or a glycolic acid, getting rid of those top surface layers of the skin, it kind of leaving the skin barrier exposed. What if we can plump up the muscle and increase the volume that way and get rid of wrinkles that way? It's a whole new mechanism that a lot of women haven't been exposed to. And then the increased muscle retention, um, the preserve lean muscle mass. So you're actually helping preserve the results that you're getting. So, right there, if I go back over here, that if I were to if I were to be going after men who wanted to get bigger, then I would do that very deliberately and I would use this information very specifically for them. If I'm going after 50 plus women, then the creative is going specifically for them. The visuals are going specifically for them. The infographics are specifically for them, super serving. So that specificity increases hand raising, self identification, dopamine, 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 right? So I just thought I would highlight that because it's interesting. If I go over here, this is Fatty 15. Y'all should try this supplement. Um, with the way that I just talked about, that's high in omega 3s. We live in an omega 6 and undated diet reality. I mean, our foods are so high in omega 6, it's like 50 to a 1, 100 to a 1. It's absurd. And that's like pouring inflammation into our body. And that's, helps create bloat. So we look like we're overweight when we're just bloated AF. This is a new kind of omega 3 potential results of anti inflammatory, of balancing out the omega 6 heavy diet and reality that we live in. So, check out also the way that they utilize their information, their exclusive compound mechanism, the proof, I mean, the scientific proof. It's just bright, white, very simple, high awareness, kind of medium sophistication, honestly. Some social proof, but not hitting over the head type stuff. Some of the media, which is good. I would put that closer to the top. But, this is so much of what is being done on the front end, on the Google side and the ad side. Go look at the media library, Facebook, and look what they're doing and what they're spending. Some good stuff going on there. All right. Hey, I'm gonna switch lanes here a little bit. Okay, so this is in Nothing Held Back, and I commented on this. Now, I wrote for Jordan Hall's relationship rewrite that's still up almost 10 years later on ClickBank, still with a decent gravity. So, it's being mailed out by affiliates and they're still making money. Otherwise, it wouldn't be up all these years later. It's because it's hitting archetypal truths about relationships. When a man is sitting on the couch and he's a million miles away from you, where is his mind? So we're and at the time, he's talking about irresistible. At the time, um, the market was ripe for new offers, for new takes on things, and I used to sell an ebook that was basically teaching women how to give subtle compliments. I used the dopamine mechanism to ground everything down. And in fact, in the VSL, there was more value given in that VSL than in the ebook they bought. And because it was so irresistible, uh, we were converting and still are, I guess, converting at a high level because, again, you don't run for 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it is, and not be hitting the core of the situation that women are feeling, what they're going through, the circumstances that they're facing with men. Um, and do I start with coaching? Oopsies. No, start with that front end product. Get credibility, get them in on that low end offer, and then escalate. Uh, it's sure more typical, but in this space, very effective. And yeah, you can sell coaching on the front end for sure, especially if you have a good sales team at scale. But this is a great way to get scale and also vet out and get more honed in pre-qualified prospects. So answering some of this guy's questions, just giving you a little bit of insight into the way I think about it. Um, this right here, if you're gonna test, come on, test with different leads, with different middles, with different CTAs, shorter, longer. Doesn't matter how long it is, matter how effective is it. And this is what people ask when they're testing one thing, or they're not testing enough openings, or their positioning is just totally off, and they need to test different positioning and more openings for that, and different UX. Do I put in a lot of primary copy, virtually none, just one, two lines, with my video running in stream on the wall itself, in the ad? There's all these questions need to be asked, and if you're not getting that data, and you're further away from the results that you want, and this is just a symptom of that. How do you handle returns in supplements, margins, your conversions, your front end conversions, your impressions to conversions, your cart value, and your ROAS? You're gonna need to keep your returns under 5% to keep your uh, payment processor happy. So yeah, this is really about margins. And lastly, Gundry. It's great that they're putting out content. Content is king in 2024. But again, specificity and trying to be everything to everybody. They're jumping around here a lot, which is great. It's content. I don't know what their numbers are, but if I'm if I'm a doctor, focusing in on very specific conversations, kind of like how Bill Maher on New Rules at the end of Real Time, he has one thing at the end that he's focusing the most on. And in fact, I do have one more thing that I am gonna bring up here that I am kind of Bill Mahering it. Um, so focusing on something specific is building credibility, authority, this kind of general information, everything to everybody. It's great, it's content, but having more specificity as well is pretty freaking important. And that can't be underplayed, especially when you have a doctor that is actively working in your company. Okay, so this is a VSL, basically, that Jennifer Lawrence is involved with to sell a political agenda. I'm curious what you think, but let's break it down a little bit.
We are witnessing a total political system failure in America. If you're anything like me, you may find yourself constantly overwhelmed by everything that's wrong with politics. And
So if you're anything like me, asking for that self-identification, that was the way into the conversation. Unbreaking America, solving the corruption crisis. So that's direct response right there. Having your headline, your sub headline, and the opening that's meant to get the most people to raise their hands. And as I got into this, they're going for as much Democrat and Republican support. They're going for the left and the right of the aisle. Keep watching.
Say politics, I'm not talking about Democrats or Republicans. I'm talking about the flaws that exist in our political system, regardless of which party is in power. And I know it's hard to talk about politics these days, but look, the government...
Right there, confirmation bias. We're uncomfortable talking about it because everybody's fighting, everybody's hyper identifying. And if you don't agree with me, you're wrong. And love it or leave it, pal.
Government is ours. We pay for it, so it needs to work for us. And right now it doesn't. And I mean, it really doesn't. So
hitting the sentiment that it is not working for mainstream America, Main Street America. It is struggling to, we are paying more for less. Inflation, taxes, constant partisanship that filibusts anything good from passing. And we're not talking about the right things. We're all being distracted by the wrong things and trying to be right. She's not saying all that, but that's what she's talking about.
So what's going on here? Is it Russian meddling in social media? Is it him? Is it her? No. Those two were the least popular presidential candidates since they began keeping track of such things. Only 4%.
Notice she didn't say Clinton, Biden, Trump, trying to keep what is charged, what people have emotional charged energy about, from being in this presentation. They want to not offend you while helping you continue to self-identify and mirror neurons. So it's a tightrope act.
Of Americans have a great deal of confidence in Congress now. Just 4%. America is no longer even considered a full democracy. We are witnessing a total political system failure in America, which is the complete opposite of what our nation's founders had in mind. So I'm going to show you 3 lines that show what's causing this failure, how we can fix it, and what you can do about it.
So what's causing this failure is kind of a deeper core, the real reason why. She's going through some basic direct response elements that we use in our effective VSLs. And she's using real information. She's keeping this in a very grounded conversation, no hyperbolic claims, no lying. If you look at her shirt is tucked in, very simple outfit. She looks very earnest, humble, but also authoritative. And her energy is that of, I'm advocating, I'm one of you.
So here's your first line. What I want you to do is take any issue you really care about and picture it on this line.
She's getting into the deeper core new cause.
This line comes from a Princeton University study that shows how public opinion influences the laws that Congress does or doesn't pass. They looked at 1,800 public opinion polls over a 20-year period, and we took their data and plotted it in this chart. See this horizontal line? That shows public support for a law amongst average Americans.
So she said in the baseline to what makes her aha, what she's doing, spilling the tea, so to speak. She's setting that precedence, that key thing that matters to make her point matter.
This vertical line, that shows the likelihood of the public support leading to the passage of a law. When you plot it for the average American, you get a line that looks like this. There's your issue sitting on that line.
So here's that real deeper core, the new cause, the reason why we haven't achieved, the reason why we're here, and what we need to address, and then she'll get into mechanism how.
If there is zero support for a law, there's about a 30% chance that Congress is going to pass it. And if there is 100% support for something, the most popular thing ever, there's still a 30% chance that Congress is going to pass it. So the line is horizontal because no matter how much support there is among average Americans, there's still a 30% chance.
If I'm doing this and I'm in her shoes, that means that the media doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, is creating all this noise, all this chaos to, steer people in this way, that way. This l- uh, uh, Lobbyists are over here saying that, these lobbyists are over here saying that, these people are in these politicians' pockets. After all of that is said and done, we still get the same results. After all of the people saying, yes, this is what we want, this is what we need, we agree on this, still, you're only going to get about 30%. So why do anything, and why buy into the charade at all?
That Congress is going to pass that law. Princeton determined that the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact on public policy. How in the hell does that happen? Consider this.
It's like those kinetic VSLs from like 2010.
Politicians are spending up to 70% of their time raising funds for re-election after they get into office. Why? Because in order to win a seat in the Senate in some races, you would have to raise $45,000 every single day, 365 days a year for 6 years to raise enough money to win. Now consider that only 0.05% of Americans give more than $10,000 to politics. And then you see why politicians have become completely dependent on the 0.05% of Americans, billionaires and special interest groups, who fund their campaigns.
All right, well, I take it back. They did get into a little bit of the deeper corruption, the things I was talking about.
Meanwhile, you've got lobbyists writing our laws and donating to the politicians who pass them. We have a two-party duopoly of Democrats and Republicans that makes it so that independents can't win, while the American people are leaving the major parties in droves.
Major parties?
As you can see here, nearly half of American voters are now registered independent. And then there's gerrymandering, with politicians drawing the boundaries of their own voting districts into crazy shapes designed to prevent competition. Today, only 14% of House campaigns are actually competitive. 86% of them are not. And we wonder why young people feel that their vote doesn't matter.
That is hitting a critical piece. The indifference of the Zoomers and younger millennials is palpable. Not the anger, but the indifference that anything they can do with their anger matters. And the gap between the youngest participating generation and the boomers, let's say, I mean, is bigger than any of the generations that preceded us. So we're really seeing how departed politics and politicians are from reality. And that's kind of what she's getting into. I'm curious what you think about this VSL.
I've covered a lot here, but it all adds up to this vast ring of influence over our elected leaders. It's a corrupt system in which we, the people, have near zero influence over our own government.
And that is the consensus. And that's hitting a deep subconscious and conscious bias that nothing I do matters. And being able to take this information, not seriously offend anybody, present the information, frame it in a way that's hitting that deeper core, giving you the reason why, and then putting that information to use, or future pacing it. Where does it go? What does it mean? Well done.
And that is sad. That is not the country I feel like I grew up in. But what's worse is that
and that's dog whistle language. So many people feel like everything's different right now.
allowing this to happen, we are causing the failure of the most important issues facing our nation. We're wasting trillions of dollars a year on fraud and abuse in our own government. 1 in 5 American children live in poverty. Our health care is the most expensive in the world. We have more people in prison per capita than Russia and China. We're losing jobs to the rest of the world, and we're not even doing enough to keep our air and our water clean for our children. America was founded on the promise of self-governance.
They were writing this in a very particular way, not to offend people, not to say it's global warming is the reason why, to stay away from things that can be polarizing. You get more support that you just want to take care of your family.
But instead, we have statistically non-significant impact on public policy. So the question is, how do we unrig this system? I'm obsessed with this idea.
So a lot of people are wanting to hack politics, hack these problems, because politicians have proven that they don't care. And they are so in everybody's pocket.
Just of unrigging it, but actually fixing it. That's when I met Josh.
This is it. This is the issue behind the issues. If we fix the system, we'll have so much more power.
So to me, this part could have been so much more well done. Who is this? Why am I listening to him? Any kind of emotional transference in professional wrestling, like passing the torch or passing the heat. When a wrestler has heat and they lose to another wrestler, they're giving them that heat so that they can put more asses in seats, more butts in seats, right? Well, who is this guy? Why am I listening after listening to Jennifer Lawrence and I did not know I was going to get you?
Or to fix everything else. So I spoke to some of the most brilliant people in the country. Constitutional scholar Lawrence Lessig, Zephyr Teachout, and dozens of other constitutional
there was his introduction, by the way.
Scholars and experts and strategists. They all said the same thing. You could pass a law that would stop political bribery and fix our broken elections. And if you could do that, you could wrest power away from the corrupt establishment and put it back in the hands of the people. Here's how you fix our broken elections. End gerrymandering with independent redistricting commissions.
Create ranked choice voting so third parties and independents can run and win.
Implement automatic voter registration and vote from home.
So they're getting into solutions and then they're going to get into mechanism. So I can't tell how far, 5 minutes and 50 seconds in, they've given us the problem and the solution, the deeper core, the new cause. They've confirmed bias. They super serve different biases. So there's a lot going on underneath the hood. Now, the question is.
And here's how we can crack down on political bribery. Overhaul lobbying and ethics laws and close the revolving door so politicians can't be bribed with high-paying job offers.
Mandate full transparency of political spending so we know who's trying to buy influence.
Give
those things right there. There's so much confidential, black op and unacknowledged ops. How could you possibly have any transparency in this day and age?
Every voter a $50 or $100 tax voucher so politicians spend time fundraising from their constituents, not just that 0.05% that I talked about earlier.
If you could pass even just some of these reforms, you would undo that ring of influence and begin to reinstate we the people as the most important influence over our elected leaders. So we took all of these reforms and put them in a model law and named it the Anti-Corruption Act. And get this, 87% of Americans support making the Anti-Corruption Act the law of the land. Look at the breakdown. 91% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans.
So in the beginning, you could tell they were going for that as bipartisan as possible. They kept that tone as much as possible. If you are on either side, I'm sure you found multiple reasons to complain and agree. So kind of balances out again. Don't know the testing, and this isn't even the full presentation.
It's incredible. Now, you might be thinking 9 out of 10 Americans, surely Congress will pass it. But on this issue,
go back to the deeper core, the reason why, the new cause.
More than any other issue, it's like asking the fox to put a lock on the henhouse. Politicians won in the current system, and they have an incentive not to fix it. So we need to go around Congress, in this case, by passing anti-corruption acts in cities and states all across America. Now, every time I say this, people look at me and say, how does passing city and state laws lead to fixing all of these problems with the federal government?
Can I do this part?
Go for it.
So, first of all, the US Constitution gives states sole control over how elections are run, even federal elections. So, when we fix gerrymandering or election laws,
So they've given you the problem, the deeper core, the new cause, the biases, the solution, the framing of the mechanism, now the specificity.
that fixes a federal election in each state. That means that by going state by state, we have an immediate impact on how we elect Congress and how we hold them accountable. But there's more, and that brings us to our second line. This line is from a Bloomberg News study. It finds that throughout American history, passing state laws leads to federal victory. Let me show you what I mean. This chart shows the number of states over time that pass laws giving women the right to vote. When it hits the right side of the chart, that's the federal victory. Okay, now I want you to watch the blue line. We're going to do this again with interracial marriage. There were a few states in the Northeast that made it legal decades ago, and centuries go by, and we hit this blue line where all of a sudden there's a rush of activity, which leads pretty quickly to federal passage. So here we are again with same-sex marriage. One state, Massachusetts, for many years. A couple decades later, we hit that blue line, a jump in state activity and federal passage.
By the way, copywriters, you're being made, you're, by the way, copywriters, you're made to look a little silly here by Jennifer Lawrence and whomever wrote this, because they're kind of doing direct response marketing better than you. And you're charging how much? And you have to lie to do this stuff. Might want to check out some 80% alternatives to that. I have some on my copywriting page on Facebook, the group.
This isn't about these issues. This is about a winning political strategy. The crucial finding in the Bloomberg study is that a key event, often a court decision or a grassroots campaign reaching maturity, triggers a rush of state activity that ultimately leads to a change in federal law. So fixing this problem is possible, but how do we create our trigger moment for this issue? Well, the grassroots campaign from the study, that's Represent Us.
Now we're getting into CTA. So I've kind of broken it down in real time. Curious what you think. And how could you utilize UGC talent? That's basically what Jennifer Lawrence is. She's being a spokesperson to it, or CGC in this case. So how do you critique this? How could you apply some stuff? What do you see working here? And how can you apply it into your campaign and look glossy? Look, like you're marketing like you mean it. All right, that's episode 1 of The Fourth Wall. What subjects do you want me to talk about? Let me know.